Skogafoss, would that be a little more difficult to get to?
Not much. Again, it's virtually at the ring road. I think in this case you have to drive about it, perhaps a half a mile. But no hiking involved unless you want to, because you can almost drive right up and into the waterfall itself on the sandbar by the river. And again, any vehicle can get to it. And in fact, this would be one to get to for people who are perhaps a little handicapped, because you can get so close. If you do want to do a little hiking, then you do have the option of hiking up on the hill. And some of the video I shot was taken from up on the hilltop, where you can get some neat views. And more often than not, the rainbow is going to be there if it's sunny. Going on around the ring road from Skogafoss is one that's, again, a little off the ring road, and this one will definitely require a four-wheel drive to get to. Ophirofoss. Ophirofoss is located about 20 miles back in the interior in a valley called Elgyal, which is the Fire Canyon or the Fire Gorge. The waterfall falls into one of the rifts that was formed by the Central Atlantic Ridge pulling Iceland apart. It's unique in that as the water falls, it goes through a very beautiful lava arch, and not a small one at that, and there's a lot of rapids and such. Truly a beautiful waterfall.
Now this arch, can it support somebody's weight? Can you get up?
In fact, it's about 3 feet wide, probably 4 or 5 feet thick, and part of the hiking trail to get to the waterfall will take you right over the arch. Perhaps not for those who have a vertigo problem, because there's no guardrails or anything to hang on. It's only a couple feet wide, but press on.
Where is that located, and what's its most prominent feature?
Okay, well, as we go further east now, a couple hundred more, about 250 miles east of the base, is the national park Skaptafell. It's at the base of Iceland's highest mountains, a tremendous amount of glaciers there. A very beautiful place, including also the forest. A short hike in from the campground at Skaptafell will take us to Svartifoss, the Black Waterfall, because of the black columnar basalt that the waterfall falls over. It's almost a natural amphitheater. The fall comes down over these columns. The motif of the National Theater in Reykjavik is based on the columnar basalt that we find there. Very beautiful falls, and easy to get to with perhaps a 15, 20, 25-minute hike, something like that.
East of Svartifoss require something more than one.
In fact, I would even say the Skaptafell and Svartifoss would be a skin trip. 275 miles, 250, 270 miles, depending on which route you actually go. And you're really think at least a week. Moving further east around to the east side of Iceland, I think the next really major waterfall is Ringifoss, and that's in the vicinity of Eilstaðir. Now we're probably looking at at least a 3-day trip, perhaps even 4, because it's about 500 miles from here. Hengifoss is the third highest fall in Iceland, behind Háafoss, and not a long hike, an hour's hike in from the road. Not difficult, just steady. Get almost 400 feet and really attractive. There's also a series of fairly hot waterfalls that you'll see as you hike.
What's the major town closest?
Eilstaðir. Australia. One of the nice things about that area is the lake out southwest of Australia, which basically falls into. Very beautiful, and here you also the most extensive forest area. There is a campground there on the opposite side of the lake at Keflavik or at Holland, where genuinely 50 to 60 foot trees, and the campground is forest by the lake shore, and it's great in Iceland. Icelandic purple. It's move around back to the north side of the island, where the side on Dedify. Moss is a tremendously powerful waterfall. Without doubt, it is the most powerful waterfall in all Europe. This is including Europe as well. So, it's on the river South Field. It was called the National Park Special a couple of years ago. A couple of guys from Whitewater and Iceland into this river. Dedify is about 100 feet high and probably close to 100 feet long, and can easily be heard half a mile. It thunders.
What's its source?
It comes from a glacier out of the north side of the Yoko. In fact, it's a little beautiful as no glacier geographical. It actually comes, most of it also comes out from underneath the glacier. It's what's called Mr. Caves. Hops underneath the glacier, so actually one part of the glacier, making a cap, and the south comes out. Tremendously powerful, very dirty cave river. It goes over lava and out into the falls, so it really kicks out the way, and it's quite a sight. Falls is west of Denver. It's between mountain area and prairie. It's waterfall, not particularly stunning, but symmetrical, kind of a pretty fall. Got a God's Fall for us because one of the early chieftains of Iceland converted to Christianity, and when he did so, threw his basically his pagan into the water over the falls and gave it the name Foss.
We'll be back with more waterfalls in just 1 minute.
What would be the next?
I would say then, the rest of the North Coast doesn't have anything particularly outstanding as far as waterfalls. You have to go up to the West Fjords. Sometimes we call it the Five Things, and the West Fjords, where we would find Dinjandi. Dinjandi is a truly beautiful fall on a very clear running stream, and as the river comes down over about 300 feet of terrace as the water just spreads out and down. And then there's another 200 to 300 feet of falls below that as it goes over various rapids and smaller falls. It's not as easy to get to as some of the rest, although it's right by the main road. It's just a long trip up into the West Fjords, perhaps 2 days from here. The Dinjandi, which means the pleasant roaring, is a truly beautiful fall. The old name for it, before it got the name Dinjandi, was Fjallfoss, which meant the mountain fall. And from a distance, it looks like the river has fallen off the top of the mountain.
The video we're seeing here is going to show some, most people around here anyway presume that we're getting all our power, and in this area it's true, from geothermal, but truthfully most of the power throughout Iceland is generated by
hydroelectric power plants, right? And there are some very large power plants here in the southern region of Iceland on the Thorsá River in the 150 megawatt range, but in various corners of Iceland I found that there'll be a small local hydroelectric power plant, a stream of only maybe 4 or 5 feet wide, but it falls 400 or 500 feet, and so they funnel it into a power plant and generate power for that local area.
And our next foss actually is a dual set, is it not?
Foss, yes. Yes, the Lava Falls and Barnafoss, the Children's Falls, they're essentially adjacent to each other. And they're in the West Iceland area around Borgarfjörður, not too far from the base. We're getting back around to I think it's about 95 miles or thereabouts to get out to Barnafoss, the Lava Falls. They're kind of unique also. In this case, at some point in the past, a lava flow blocked the river. The river eventually made it through the cracks and such in the lava, and is coming out on the side of a lava wall, and in places it actually comes out from underneath the lava. And the net effect of it, the lava coming out of the lava over a stretch of perhaps a mile or so, is quite unique. And when it comes out from underneath, it boils and churns, and it almost it looks like it's been whipped. There's so much air has been entrapped, and because this water is going through a lot of torture, basically. And then at Children's Falls. Children's Falls have got a name from an unfortunate incident. There has been a bridge there because the river's very narrow for a long time. And I guess at some point in the past, some children walking to school, the bridge broke beneath them, and they were, all were killed in the fall. And it got the name that way. Barnafoss and Barnafoss, the water is extremely clear, and I think it has so much, the reason the blueness, it has so much air entrapped in it that it refracts the light. But it's truly beautiful to see it here.
And our last fall is probably one of the more difficult ones to get to, but it's also...
It is. We're talking now about Glimmer. Glimmer it's kind of a quandary. It's the closest to the base. It's only about 65 or 70 miles up to the head of Whale Bay. And again, with an ordinary car, you can get to the parking lot at the base of the hill. Then comes an hour to 2 hour hike, a climb of perhaps 800, maybe 1,000 feet. When you get to the top, you can actually then see into basically the chasm below the fall and the fall. Glimmer is Iceland's highest. It's nearly 600 feet high, but the chasm is so narrow that perhaps you only see about the top 300, 400, 500 feet of it. It's a very, very narrow chasm, maybe 120 feet wide, and it's tricky to get near the edge to even look into it. I was standing on outcrops of rock that were only a couple feet wide to get the video that we're going to be seeing here. It's a little tricky to get it, but it's really neat, and it's a nice hike to go up through kind of a brush and small tree-covered hillside. So I'd recommend, if anybody's got a little energy for hiking, go off. You can go up and do it in a couple hours and be back for a mid-afternoon snack.
Recap, in terms of accessibility, what's the most accessible falls?
Okay, I would say that in accessibility, you would probably have to start with Gullfoss, 2 hours to the east, or second, and it's also very large and beautiful, or to go onto the south coast along the Ring Road to Sælandsfoss and Skogafoss. Those are both very, very nice falls. I don't think I mentioned, but Skogafoss is nearly 200 feet high, and it falls as a sheer curtain of water. Very definitely right there, and virtually drive up to the base of both of these falls. If you were to go further afield, then in the northwest, Denjandi is extremely accessible, virtually right by the road. On the north coast regions, Akureyri, Goðafoss is the parking lot to the falls, perhaps a 2-minute walk. Very, very easy to get to. Dettifoss is remarkably easy to get to. The roads are not particularly great, but certainly traversable by any vehicle. And you can go to, I think from the parking lot of the waterfall is perhaps a 10-minute walk, something like that. Not hard at all. There are bunches and bunches of buses up there all the time with people walking around in tennis shoes. The rest of them are going to take some level amount of walking, and in some cases, perhaps a four-wheel drive vehicle.
If you had to pick one out of the number that we looked at that's the most, you consider the most picturesque, which one would that be?
Actually, I think I'd have to take two. The most beautiful waterfall in entrancing is probably Dinyondi in the West Fjords. Anyone who's ever seen films that I've shot before this always picks that one out of the ones I've looked at. For power and glory, if you will, and just stunning, probably Dettifoss. And then the third in that list would probably still be Godafoss up here in the Northeast. There's a lot of it falls in so many different ways that you can walk around it at length and see a lot of different scenes and sights within that one waterfall.
Major, thank you for taking the time to show us some of Iceland's waterfalls. I'm sure it'll get people thinking that there's more to this island than just the peninsula that we're on. Is there any organization on base that offers organized tours that people wouldn't have to go out by themselves?
Well, I suspect you have two choices on that. One is to go with the tour office, and we have to make sure that people understand that option. The tour office does run tours to Godafoss on the Golden Circle and the South Coast tour when they go down to Vik and such. If you don't want to do that and you're a little unsure about going out, then of course there is the Rocky Road four-wheelers. It's not for people just because they have a four-wheel drive or such, because a lot of times of the year the Rocky Roaders do go to places like Godafoss or down on the South Coast. If anybody's interested in going, particularly if you don't have a vehicle, then I would encourage you to get with their four-wheel drive club. They meet every Tuesday at 7:45, and people should show up and see it. And I do encourage people to get off the base. Your tour will probably be a lot more enjoyable if you can start seeing things that are truly beautiful. And there's a lot of things out there to see, and a lot of them are not more than a day's drive from the base, out and back in a day, and it's a really good thing to do.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
I am crying the long hard train. Lost and lonely every way. Got the slats all around, sky up above. Yes, I need a little water of love. I've been too long lonely and my heart feels pain. Crying out for some sympathy. I believe taking up. Yes, I need a little water of love. Water of love, deep in the ground, but there ain't no water here to be found. Someday, baby, when the river runs free, gonna carry that water of love with me. Fed up in a tree.